Most people spend their younger years fearing old age because they have been taught to see it as decline instead of development. Society often celebrates youth, speed, appearance, and physical strength, but wisdom teaches us that the greatest treasures of life are not found in youthful energy alone. Some of the most valuable lessons, deepest understanding, and strongest character are formed through years of experience, struggle, failure, patience, and reflection. Old age is not weakness. Old age is a higher classroom of life. It is a season where a person finally begins to understand what truly matters. When you are young, you often measure life by activity. You believe success means moving fast, chasing opportunities, proving yourself, and competing with others. But age changes your perspective. Time teaches lessons that excitement never could. As the years pass, you begin to realize that many things you once worried about were not worth your peace. Many people you tried to impress were not important to your destiny. Many battles you fought drained your strength without adding value to your life. Wisdom arrives when experience teaches you to separate what is important from what is merely loud. That is why old age should never be viewed as a curse. It is an invitation into wisdom. It is life slowing you down long enough to see clearly. Youth often acts before thinking, but wisdom thinks before acting. Young people may have energy, but older people possess understanding. And understanding is more powerful than uncontrolled energy because wisdom knows where energy should be directed. A river without direction becomes a flood. But a river guided correctly produces power. In the same way, wisdom guides life. And wisdom is usually born through time. Every disappointment, every heartbreak, every struggle, and every victory teaches something valuable. The older you become, the more you begin to understand human nature. You recognize patterns. You stop being shocked by betrayal because you understand people better. You stop expecting perfection from life because experience has taught you reality. This understanding creates emotional balance. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing their usefulness ends with age. That is completely false. In many ways, your greatest value appears later in life because wisdom becomes more important than speed. A young man may run faster, but an older person often knows the correct direction. And direction is more important than speed. There are people moving quickly in life but heading toward destruction because they lack wisdom. The tragedy of life is not becoming old. The tragedy is becoming old without understanding. Some people age physically but never mature mentally. They continue repeating the same emotional mistakes for decades. They remain controlled by anger, jealousy, pride, insecurity, and foolishness. But a wise elder becomes calmer over time. Their words become fewer but more meaningful. Their decisions become slower but more accurate. They no longer feel the need to prove themselves because life has already educated them. Old age should bring confidence, not shame. You have survived storms that younger generations know nothing about. You have endured pain, disappointment, sacrifice, pressure, and responsibility. You have learned lessons through tears that books could never teach. That experience has value. Never underestimate the power of experience. There are things an older person understands naturally that a younger person cannot fully comprehend yet. A young person may understand information, but an older person understands consequences. Experience teaches consequences. That is why wisdom carries weight. You must also understand that old age is an opportunity for deeper personal growth. When people are young, they are often distracted by survival, ambition, competition, and external success. But later in life, a person finally has the opportunity to focus inwardly. This is the season to strengthen the mind, spirit, and character. It is a season of reflection, a season of healing, a season of understanding yourself more deeply. Many people waste their old age complaining about what they lost instead of appreciating what they gained. Yes, physical strength may decrease, but spiritual strength can increase. Patience can increase. Emotional intelligence can increase. Discernment can increase. Peace can increase. These qualities are more valuable than physical appearance because they create stability and influence. A wise elder does not compete with youth. They guide youth. They understand their role has changed. Every season of life has a different assignment. Childhood is for learning. Youth is for building. Adulthood is for responsibility. Old age is for wisdom and legacy. And legacy is one of the greatest purposes of old age. A person who has lived long should leave behind more than possessions. They should leave understanding, values, principles, character, wisdom. Future generations should benefit from the lessons you learned through life. That is how wisdom continues beyond one lifetime. Never allow society to convince you that your value decreases with age. Your value is not in your appearance. Your value is not in how fast you move. Your value is in what you understand. Wisdom is rare because many people grow older without truly learning from life. But those who embrace wisdom become powerful in a different way. They become stable, peaceful, clear-minded, disciplined. A young tree may bend in every direction because it is still developing, but an old tree stands firm because its roots are deep. In the same way, a wise elder becomes emotionally grounded. They are not easily shaken by opinions, trends, or temporary problems because life has taught them perspective. Old age is not the end of usefulness. It is the beginning of deeper understanding. It is not a punishment. It is preparation for legacy. It is not weakness. It is wisdom wearing human skin. Silence is one of the greatest signs of maturity, yet it is one of the most misunderstood qualities in human life. Many people believe that power belongs to the loudest voice, the fastest response, or the person who always has something to say. But true wisdom teaches the opposite. A mature person understands that not every situation deserves a reaction. In old age especially, silence becomes a form of strength, discipline, and deep understanding. When people are young, they often feel the need to explain themselves constantly. They argue to prove they are right. They react emotionally because they believe every challenge is an attack on their identity. Youth often seeks recognition through words, but age, experience, and wisdom slowly reveal an important truth. Talking more does not always increase respect. In many situations, excessive words actually reduce value. A wise elder learns to conserve emotional energy. They realize that peace is too expensive to waste on unnecessary conflict. There are arguments that cannot be won because the other person is not seeking truth, they are seeking control. There are people who ask questions not because they want understanding, but because they want confrontation. Maturity teaches you to recognize the difference. One of the greatest forms of intelligence is knowing when to remain quiet. Silence is not weakness. Weak people react to everything because they lack control over themselves. Strong people remain calm because they understand the power of restraint. Anyone can become angry. Anyone can shout. Anyone can interrupt, criticize, and complain. But it takes discipline to stay composed when emotions are pulling you toward reaction. As people grow older, they begin to understand how many problems in life were created by uncontrolled words. Families have been divided because someone spoke in anger. Friendships have ended because pride refused to stay quiet. Opportunities have been destroyed because emotions were stronger than wisdom. A mature elder eventually learns that words are powerful tools, and powerful tools must be handled carefully. There is dignity in silence. When you no longer feel the need to defend yourself against every accusation, you demonstrate confidence. People who truly know their worth do not spend all day trying to convince others of their value. They understand that time reveals truth better than arguments ever can. Many older people suffer emotionally because they continue carrying the habits of immaturity into old age. They interfere in every conversation. They criticize every decision. They respond to every disagreement. As a result, they lose their peace. They become frustrated because they expect everyone to think like them, behave like them, or accept their opinions. But wisdom teaches acceptance. Wisdom understands that people learn through experience, not through endless lectures. Silence allows you to observe life more clearly. When you talk constantly, you cannot learn. A person who never stops speaking eventually stops growing because they leave no room for reflection. But quiet people notice details others miss. They understand human behavior more deeply because they spend more time observing than reacting. In old age, observation becomes more valuable than argument. A mature person also understands that silence protects emotional health. Stress destroys the body slowly. Constant conflict weakens the mind. Endless drama steals joy from life. Some people spend their later years trapped in bitterness because they continue fighting battles that no longer matter. They relive old insults, old betrayals, and old disappointments. But wisdom says, release it. Your peace is worth more than your pride. There is freedom in no longer needing the last word. Some individuals believe silence means defeat. That is incorrect. Silence often means you have risen above the situation. It means you value your inner peace more than temporary victory. A wise elder knows that proving a point is sometimes less important than protecting the heart. You must understand this clearly. Maturity changes the purpose of communication. Young people often speak to impress. Mature people speak to add value. Wise elders do not speak carelessly because they understand the weight words carry. When they speak, their words are measured. intentional, and meaningful. This is why quiet wisdom commands respect naturally. People trust individuals who are calm under pressure. They admire those who can remain composed during conflict. Emotional control creates influence. A person who cannot control their tongue usually cannot control their life. In old age, silence also creates space for self-discovery. Many people spend decades surrounded by noise, responsibilities, and distractions. But later in life, silence becomes an opportunity to finally hear their own thoughts clearly. It becomes a chance to reflect on life, examine mistakes, and develop inner understanding. Some of the greatest lessons in life are learned in quiet moments. When you sit silently, you begin to understand yourself better. You notice your fears, your habits, your regrets, and your strengths. You begin to heal emotionally because silence forces honesty. Noise often hides pain, but silence reveals truth. And truth is necessary for growth. A wise elder does not waste energy trying to control everyone around them. Instead, they focus on mastering themselves. Self-mastery is the highest level of maturity. It is easy to control a conversation with loudness. It is much harder to control your emotions with wisdom. There are moments in life when silence speaks louder than any speech ever could. Your calmness during insult reveals maturity. Your restraint during conflict reveals strength. Your peace during chaos reveals wisdom. The older you become, the more you should value tranquility over attention. You do not need to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not need to respond to every criticism. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how clearly you explain yourself. Some people will judge you unfairly regardless of your intentions. Accepting this truth brings emotional freedom. Silence teaches patience. Silence teaches humility. Silence teaches discernment. And most importantly, silence teaches inner power. A mature elder eventually understands that life becomes lighter when unnecessary words are removed. Peace increases, relationships improve, emotional burdens decrease, the heart becomes calmer. And perhaps that is one of the greatest achievements in old age, not becoming louder, but becoming wiser, calmer, and more peaceful with every passing year. There comes a powerful moment in life when a person realizes that the greatest investment is not in possessions, popularity, or public recognition, but in the development of the inner self. Old age is not simply a stage where the body changes. It is a sacred season where the soul has the opportunity to mature. Many people spend their younger years building careers, chasing success, raising families, solving problems, and carrying responsibilities. Their attention is constantly directed outward. They are busy trying to survive, trying to achieve, trying to prove themselves. But when old age arrives, life quietly begins to shift your focus inward. It starts asking questions that money cannot answer and success cannot silence. Who are you when the noise disappears? What remains when your strength slows down? What kind of person have you become beneath all the titles and responsibilities? This is why old age must become a season of inner development. If you do not intentionally build your inner life, you may enter old age with achievements but without peace. You may have experience but no wisdom. You may have memories but no joy. The inner life is the foundation of emotional stability, mental clarity, spiritual strength, and lasting peace. Many people neglect themselves for decades. They care for everyone except their own soul. They feed everybody else's needs while starving their own spirit. They become experts in solving other people's problems but strangers to themselves. Then one day, when life becomes quieter and slower, they suddenly feel empty inside because they never took the time to know themselves deeply. Old age gives you the opportunity to correct that. This is the season to strengthen your mind. Your thoughts determine the quality of your life more than your circumstances. Two elderly people can live in the same environment, yet one lives with peace while the other lives with bitterness. The difference is not age. The difference is mindset. A disciplined mind creates a peaceful life. You must guard your thoughts carefully because the mind becomes the control room of your emotions. If you constantly think about regret, disappointment, betrayal, and failure, your spirit will become heavy. But if you fill your mind with wisdom, gratitude, learning, and purpose, your later years can become the most peaceful years of your life. Never stop learning simply because you are growing older. A person who stops learning starts dying mentally long before physical death arrives. Your mind was designed to grow continuously. Read books, study wisdom, observe life carefully, reflect deeply, challenge your old thinking, learn how to become emotionally disciplined, learn how to forgive, learn how to remain calm under pressure. Learn how to enjoy simplicity. Growth does not stop because age increases. In fact, old age should produce deeper understanding because experience has become your teacher. Every hardship you survived carries a lesson. Every disappointment contains wisdom. Every mistake contains instruction. But experience alone does not create growth. Reflection creates growth. Some people suffer for many years and still learn nothing because they never stop to examine their lives honestly. You must learn to sit quietly with yourself. That is where true growth begins. Most people fear silence because silence forces them to face themselves. Noise becomes an escape. Constant activity becomes a distraction. But maturity teaches you to become comfortable with stillness. When you can sit alone, peacefully, without needing attention, entertainment, or validation, you have reached a higher level of emotional strength. Your inner life also includes your spiritual condition. A human being is more than flesh and bone. There is a spiritual hunger inside every person that success alone cannot satisfy. This is why many wealthy people still feel empty. They achieved external success, but ignored internal development. Old age should bring you closer to understanding purpose, faith, peace, and eternal values. This is the time to strengthen your relationship with God, deepen your understanding of life, and prepare your spirit with wisdom. A strong spiritual life creates stability during difficult moments. When the body becomes weaker, the spirit must become stronger. You must also protect your emotional health. Carrying bitterness into old age is dangerous because bitterness poisons peace. Some elderly people become prisoners of resentment. They replay old betrayals, old arguments, old disappointments, and old wounds until negativity consumes their remaining years. But wisdom teaches you to release what you cannot change. Forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is freedom. When you forgive, you are not saying the pain was acceptable. You are simply refusing to let the pain control your future. Emotional healing becomes essential in old age because peace is now more valuable than revenge. This is also the season to stop competing with others. Comparison is a thief of joy. You do not need to prove your value to society anymore. You do not need to chase applause. You do not need to exhaust yourself trying to impress people who may never appreciate you fully. Your assignment now is to become whole within yourself. True fulfillment comes when your joy is no longer dependent on external approval. A mature person learns how to enjoy life quietly. They appreciate simple things. They value peace over popularity. They protect their energy carefully because they understand that emotional strength is precious. Focus on your health as well. Your body is the house your spirit lives in. Take care of it with discipline. Rest properly. Eat wisely. Move your body. Protect your mind from stress and unnecessary conflict. Your later years should not become years of constant worry and tension. They should become years of wisdom, balance, and reflection. Most importantly, develop inner peace. Peace is one of the greatest riches a human being can possess. A peaceful person does not panic easily. They do not react emotionally to everything. They are steady, calm, and grounded because their strength comes from within. The world may become louder around you, but your spirit must become quieter. People may become more chaotic, but your mind must remain disciplined. This is the beauty of old age when it is lived correctly. Instead of becoming bitter, you become wiser. Instead of becoming angry, you become calmer. Instead of becoming empty, you become deeper. And when a person develops their inner life properly, they become a source of wisdom to everyone around them. Their words carry weight. Their presence brings peace. Their life becomes an example that true greatness is not found in noise, but in inner strength, self-mastery, and wisdom. One of the greatest freedoms a person can experience in old age is the freedom from people's approval. Many individuals spend the first half of their lives trying to be accepted, appreciated, applauded, and recognized. They shape their personalities around public opinion. They sacrifice their peace to avoid criticism. They exhaust themselves trying to satisfy people whose expectations never end. But wisdom teaches an important lesson late in life. If you build your identity on people's approval, you will live as a prisoner of their opinions. There is something dangerous about constantly needing validation from others. The moment your happiness depends on applause, your peace is no longer under your control. People are unpredictable. One day they praise you, and the next day they criticize you. One season they celebrate you, and another season they forget you. If your confidence rises and falls according to people's reactions, you will never experience stability within yourself. Old age is supposed to be a season of emotional freedom. By this stage in life, a person should no longer be controlled by the pressure to impress others. Sadly, many elderly people still suffer because they are emotionally dependent on recognition. They become bitter when they are not appreciated enough. They become angry when others do not consult them. They become wounded when younger people do not admire them the way they expected. But maturity teaches you that your value does not decrease simply because attention decreases. You must understand this clearly. Attention and value are not the same thing. A diamond remains valuable even when nobody is looking at it. The sun does not ask for applause before it rises every morning. True worth does not beg for recognition. It exists whether people acknowledge it or not. One of the signs of wisdom is becoming secure within yourself. When you are secure, you no longer need to announce your importance. You no longer fight to prove your intelligence. You no longer feel threatened when others succeed. You no longer become desperate for acceptance. Why? Because you have finally understood that your identity should come from purpose, not public opinion. Many people reach old age carrying emotional wounds because they spent decades trying to gain approval from the wrong people. Some tried to please family members who were impossible to satisfy. Some tried to impress society by chasing status and appearance. Others sacrificed their own dreams just to avoid criticism. But eventually, life teaches you a painful truth. No matter how much you do for some people, it will never be enough. That realization can either make you bitter or make you wise. Wise people stop chasing validation. They begin focusing on inner fulfillment instead of external applause. They understand that peace is more important than popularity. They discover that a quiet life with dignity is more valuable than a loud life filled with stress and competition. You must stop measuring your worth by how people respond to you. Some people will overlook your sacrifices. Some will misunderstand your intentions. Some will forget your kindness. But you cannot spend your remaining years emotionally collapsing every time someone fails to appreciate you. A mature person learns to do good without demanding recognition. They help others because it is part of their character, not because they are addicted to praise. There is power in reaching a point where you can serve, love, and contribute without constantly needing applause in return. Old age should also teach you that not everyone deserves access to your emotional energy. Some people only contact you when they need something. Some only remember you when it benefits them. If you spend your life waiting for people to finally value you correctly, disappointment will consume your spirit. Instead, learn to value yourself correctly. Self-respect is powerful. It changes the way you think, speak, and live. When you respect yourself, you stop begging for attention. You stop forcing relationships. You stop explaining your worth to people determined to misunderstand you. You become more peaceful because you realize that your purpose is too important to be wasted on constant emotional battles. There are elderly people who still compete for approval like insecure teenagers. They compare themselves constantly. They become jealous of younger people. They try desperately to remain relevant in every conversation and every environment. But wisdom does not compete for attention. Wisdom carries quiet confidence. A lion does not need to remind the jungle that it is a lion. You must arrive at a stage where criticism no longer controls your emotions. If people speak well of you, remain humble. If they speak against you, remain calm. Never hand over your peace to public opinion. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how pure your intentions are. Some will criticize you simply because your existence reminds them of their own failures. That is why emotional maturity is necessary. When you stop living for approval, you begin to experience real peace. You sleep better. You think more clearly. Your relationships improve because they are no longer built on desperation. You stop performing for acceptance and start living authentically. There is also great danger in trying to relive your life through the opinions of others. Some elderly individuals become emotionally dependent on their children's attention, society's praise, or public recognition. While appreciation is beautiful, dependence on it is unhealthy. You cannot make people the foundation of your emotional stability. Learn to enjoy your own company. Learn to appreciate your own growth. Learn to celebrate your own journey. You survived difficult seasons. You overcame pain. You gained wisdom through experience. That alone is valuable. The older you become, the more selective you should become with your energy. Stop chasing environments where you are merely tolerated. Stop forcing conversations that drain your spirit. Stop begging people to see your worth. The right people will recognize your value naturally. And even if some people never appreciate you properly, do not allow that to poison your heart. Continue growing. Continue learning. Continue living with dignity. Your assignment is not to convince everyone of your greatness. Your assignment is to become whole within yourself. Because the moment you no longer depend on approval, you become emotionally free. And emotional freedom is one of the greatest forms of wealth a human being can possess. One of the greatest forms of wisdom in old age is learning how to protect your energy and preserve your peace. When people are young, they often believe strength is found in constant activity, endless conversations, emotional reactions, and trying to fight every battle that appears before them. But age teaches a different lesson. Real strength is not found in how loud you can become, but in how calm you can remain. It is not found in how many arguments you win, but in how much peace you keep within yourself. As you grow older, you begin to realize that energy is precious. Your mind cannot carry unnecessary burdens forever. Your emotions cannot survive endless stress without consequences. This is why wise people become more selective with where they invest their time, attention, and emotional power. They understand that every conflict has a cost. Every unnecessary argument drains the spirit. Every toxic conversation steals peace from the heart. Many people lose their joy in old age because they continue living as if they are still required to respond to everything. They interfere in every issue, react to every opinion, and carry the weight of everybody's problems on their shoulders. Eventually, this emotional overload creates frustration, bitterness, and exhaustion. But wisdom teaches you to let some things pass without involvement. Not every disrespect deserves a response. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Not every misunderstanding must be corrected. There is a level of maturity where you stop trying to explain yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. Silence becomes protection. Distance becomes wisdom. Peace becomes more valuable than approval. You must understand that emotional energy is like a resource. If you waste it carelessly, you will eventually become empty within yourself. Some people spend their entire lives fighting battles that never changed anything. They argue with stubborn people, chase validation from cold hearts, and try to control situations beyond their power. In the process, they destroy their own peace. But wise elders learn the art of emotional discipline. They no longer jump into every conflict. They no longer allow small matters to disturb their spirit. They choose calmness over chaos. This does not mean they are weak. In fact, it takes greater strength to remain peaceful than to react emotionally. Anyone can lose their temper. Anyone can shout in anger. Anyone can speak harsh words during frustration. But it takes wisdom to stay composed when emotions are pulling you toward reaction. Self-control is one of the highest levels of maturity a human being can reach. There are people who will try to provoke you because they feed on emotional reactions. Some people enjoy drama because they have no inner peace themselves. If you react to every provocation, you become a prisoner of other people's behavior. Your peace should never be controlled by someone else's actions. There is freedom in learning how to walk away quietly. There is power in refusing to carry unnecessary tension. Some battles are distractions disguised as importance. The enemy of peace is not always hatred. Sometimes it is constant involvement in things that do not deserve your energy. Old age should be a season of protecting the mind. Stress has consequences. Bitterness has consequences. Anger has consequences. The body was not designed to carry emotional poison forever. This is why peaceful living becomes essential as you grow older. Your environment matters. Your conversations matter. The people around you matter. Spend time with those who bring calmness into your life, not confusion. Stay around people who respect your spirit instead of constantly draining it. There are individuals who only appear when they want conflict, gossip, or emotional control. Wisdom teaches you to create healthy distance from such people. Peace is not accidental. It is intentional. You must decide that your remaining years will not be wasted on noise, resentment, and endless emotional battles. Too many elderly people spend their final years angry at life, angry at family, angry at society, and angry at themselves. But carrying anger into old age is like carrying heavy stones uphill. It weakens the soul. There comes a point where healing becomes more important than proving a point. Inner calm becomes more important than external victory. The wise person understands that protecting peace is not selfish, it is necessary. Learn to enjoy quiet moments. Learn to sit alone without feeling empty. Learn to wake up without rushing into negativity. A peaceful mind is a gift many people never experience because they are addicted to stress and distraction. But you must train yourself to value stillness. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is remain silent when others expect a reaction. Silence confuses those who want conflict. Calmness weakens unnecessary drama. And peace protects your dignity. You do not have unlimited emotional energy. That is why you must guard it carefully. Stop carrying the burden of fixing everyone. Stop exhausting yourself trying to rescue people who refuse wisdom. Stop sacrificing your mental peace to maintain relationships that only bring pain. A peaceful life requires boundaries. Boundaries are not cruelty. Boundaries are wisdom. They protect your emotional health from constant damage. Even love requires wisdom. You can care about people without allowing them to destroy your peace. As you grow older, your focus should become simpler and deeper. Protect your health. Protect your spirit. Protect your thoughts. Spend more time in reflection, learning, gratitude, and personal growth. The noise of the world will never end, but your inner peace must become stronger than the noise around you. The truth is that peace is one of the greatest riches a human being can possess. Money cannot buy it. Fame cannot guarantee it. Attention cannot create it. Peace comes from discipline, wisdom, and knowing what deserves your energy and what does not. So choose carefully where your emotions go. Choose carefully what you allow into your heart. Preserve your joy. Preserve your dignity. Preserve your calmness. Because a peaceful old age is not created by accident. It is created by wisdom, restraint, and the decision to stop allowing unnecessary battles to steal the beauty of your remaining years. One of the greatest mistakes people make in life is believing that success is measured only by money, popularity, possessions, or public recognition. But when a person reaches old age, reality begins to expose what truly matters. Titles lose their power. Physical strength begins to fade. Crowds become smaller. Attention decreases, and in those quiet moments, a person finally discovers what their real legacy will be. It is not the noise they made. It is not the arguments they won. It is not the number of people who applauded them. Their true legacy is the wisdom they leave behind. Every human being leaves something in the earth after they are gone. Some leave confusion, some leave pain, some leave division. But wise people leave understanding, peace, discipline, and truth. That is why old age should not become a season of unnecessary talking and emotional reactions. It should become a season of refining your character so your life itself becomes a lesson for others. You must understand that younger generations are always watching, even when they appear distracted. They observe how elders handle pressure. They observe how elders speak. They observe emotional control, patience, humility, and discipline. Many people think teaching happens only through words, but the greatest education often happens through example. Your lifestyle teaches louder than your speeches. An elder who constantly complains teaches fear. An elder who gossips teaches confusion. An elder who lives in bitterness teaches emotional weakness. But an elder who remains peaceful during difficult moments teaches strength without speaking loudly. That is the power of silent wisdom. There is something powerful about a person who no longer feels the need to prove themselves. In youth, people often chase attention because they are searching for identity. They want everyone to notice them, praise them, and validate them. But maturity changes your priorities. A mature person understands that value does not increase because people clap for you. Real value comes from the quality of your character. When you reach old age, your focus should shift from being impressive to being impactful. Impressive people attract attention temporarily. Impactful people change lives permanently. And impact does not always come through fame. Sometimes impact comes through a calm spirit, wise counsel, faithful discipline, and quiet consistency over many years. Many elderly people become frustrated because they feel forgotten by society. But wisdom teaches you that your greatest assignment is not to remain popular. Your assignment is to remain valuable. There is a difference. Popularity depends on trends. Value depends on substance. Trends change every season, but wisdom remains powerful across generations. Think about the people who influenced your life the most. Often they were not the loudest individuals. They were people of stability, people of discipline, people whose words carried weight because their lives supported their message. Their presence created peace. Their attitude created safety. Their example created direction. That is the kind of legacy you must pursue. A wise elder understands that life becomes more meaningful when energy is invested into growth instead of conflict. There are people who spend their final years angry at the world, angry at family members, angry at changing times, angry at opportunities they missed decades ago. But bitterness is a prison. It destroys the person carrying it. Wisdom means learning how to release emotional burdens before they destroy your peace. Your later years should become years of clarity, years of reflection, years of understanding what truly matters. And one of the greatest discoveries you will ever make is this. People may remember your achievements for a moment, but they will remember your spirit for a lifetime. They will remember whether you brought peace or tension into the room. They will remember whether your words healed or wounded. They will remember whether your presence produced wisdom or confusion. That is why silence becomes important in old age. Silence protects dignity. Silence prevents unnecessary battles. Silence allows observation. Some people talk so much that they never learn. But wise people understand the power of listening. When you listen more than you speak, you begin to understand people, life, and yourself at a deeper level. Silence also strengthens discernment. Not every issue deserves your opinion. Not every disagreement requires your participation. Sometimes wisdom means conserving your emotional energy instead of wasting it on temporary problems. An old person who reacts to everything will lose peace quickly, but a wise elder chooses carefully where to invest attention. There is also honor in finishing life with grace. Anyone can begin strongly, but not everyone finishes wisely. Some people destroy their reputation in later years because they refuse to mature emotionally. They become controlled by pride, stubbornness, and frustration. But true wisdom produces humility. A wise elder does not need to dominate conversations to feel important. They do not need constant recognition to feel valuable. Their confidence comes from inner understanding. Never forget this. Your life is speaking every day, even when your mouth is silent. Your habits speak. Your reactions speak. Your discipline speaks. Your peace speaks. And the greatest inheritance you can leave your family is not merely financial wealth, but emotional and spiritual wisdom. Money can help people survive temporarily, but wisdom helps people live correctly. Wealth without wisdom creates destruction. But wisdom creates stability, discipline, and direction for generations. Therefore, in old age, focus on becoming deeper, calmer, wiser, and more peaceful. Let your words become fewer but more meaningful. Let your actions reflect maturity. Let your silence reflect confidence, not fear. Become the kind of person whose life teaches lessons without shouting for attention. Because at the end of life, people will not measure you only by what you owned. They will measure you by the atmosphere you created, the wisdom you carried, the peace you protected, and the example you left behind.